Good morning. This is Arlan Suderman, Chief Commodities Economist at StoneX, coming to you from the trading floor at about 8:45 a.m. on this Wednesday, September 24th. What's going on with Mexico? Mexico's back in the headlines once again for a couple of different reasons. President Trump seeming to put the pressure on Mexico to negotiate a trade deal. We had seen some indications that they were moving in that direction. In fact, earlier this year, I should say back in August, President Trump gave Mexico another 90-day extension, whereas he put higher tariffs back on many other nations, including Canada and including Brazil. But Mexico, he gave a pass, believing that they were making good progress. Mexico is probably our most critical trading partner right now. Despite all the focus on China, Mexico is probably our most critical trading partner going forward. And Mexican exports to the United States are said to account for 1 out of 3 jobs down there, but their economy is struggling with retail sales said to be down 9%. They need a trade deal with the United States. We need a trade deal with them. And of course, next year comes the scheduled review of the USMCA, with Mexico and Canada getting together here recently to discuss how they can negotiate with the United States. We did see some progress with Mexico putting into its budget recommendation some tariffs on Chinese products that were meant to be kind of catch the transshipments, where China was trying to bypass U.S. sanctions to get products into the United States, passing them through Mexico. So it did look like Mexico was making some progress on that, but as yet we still don't have a deal. Now, let's move up to this week when on Monday morning we got an announcement from the USDA, the USDA Secretary Rollins, that Mexico had informed her that they had discovered a beef animal with the larva of the New World screwworm less than 70 miles from the U.S. border. That's a real concern. That's the furthest north that we've seen it in this current infestation as they're moving north. Mexico said, but not to worry, because there was an animal that had been transported from the south and had been detected quick enough before the larva had a chance to turn into adult flies. That would be the real problem. That's where it could spread. But the problem is, why was the animal allowed to be transported north in the first place? So the bottom line here is it says that we're not likely to see Secretary Rollins open the border with Mexico anytime soon for cattle to come north to the United States to be fed in our feedlots, keeping supplies tight. But in that same statement from Secretary Rollins, she had a single sentence in there saying that we should expect an announcement from the Trump administration later this week, announcing a plan to increase the U.S. cattle supply. Now, the markets immediately interpreted that as some type of financial incentive to incentivize the industry to hold back valuable heifers to increase or to regrow the breeding supply. These young female animals right now, many of them, most of them, are going to the feedlots to be fed for beef, since we have a very tight supply, and therefore we're not able to rebuild the breeding herd because of that. And basically it comes down to producers are facing the option of getting a lot of money right now up front for an animal, or holding her back to rebuild the breeding herd and getting a possible return from her 3 to 4 years from now. And so they're taking the bird in the hand instead of the two in the bush right now, so to speak. And they're selling the animal now, and we're not rebuilding the breeding herd, which was shrunk originally because of persistent drought in the western half of the United States. So what kind of incentive program will it be? We don't know yet. Will it be opening up federal grasslands for grazing? Will it be some type of direct cash payment like crop farmers have received from the Trump administration? Will it be some type of tax credit for producers? What will it be? Will it be opening up, simply exempting Brazilian beef? from the 50% tariff that's currently on it to increase the supply of beef. Well, the statement seemed to indicate increase the cattle supply, so that suggests that it's probably not the Brazil option, although that could always happen. So we continued to wait. Meanwhile, Mexico continues to be a red hot buyer of U.S. corn. And in fact, we got another flash sale this morning. They've been coming almost daily now, with Mexico buying another 12.3 million bushels overnight. Known corn sales from these flash sales, and only flash sales over 100,000 metric ton are required to be reported. So we know there's typically many more of the smaller units. Over the last week, we have seen a total of 34.1 million bushels of U.S. corn sold to Mexico, with most of that being current year corn. And on top of that, we had a sale to unknown destinations during that time period of 8.1 million bushels, which also may very well have been Mexico. Many of those sales to unknown destinations are Mexico. So this suggests we're going to continue our record selling pace of corn sales to Mexico and to the world for some time yet, even with the tax holiday on exports out of Argentina that is currently going on, although exporters are really focusing mostly on selling soybeans there, although corn and wheat could also fall under those advantages, being able to benefit from that. As we look at the biofuel program, one other thing that I want to focus on is the fact that every time we get a box checked on the biofuel program, we get more boxes to check. And we saw that in originally we were looking at, okay, three things that we need to have for the biofuel program. First is the 45Z guidance, and that was in the big tax bill, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill that passed this summer, and that was seen as very positive for biofuels. The next thing we needed was a proposed RVOs, or blending requirements, and we've got from the EPA what their proposal was that went out for comment period. One of the things that came out in the comments was resistance toward the 50% credit on imported feedstock. So EPA hasn't announced what they're going to do about that yet. Also related to that was the SRE ruling, or small refinery exemptions. We got those announced, but with that come the question, will those be reallocated? EPA said they were going to submit some proposals, and they did submit some proposals, one for reallocating 100% of them, one for reallocating 50% of them, and one proposal for throwing it all out for comment, 0%, 25%, 75%. What do people think? And then there's a statement that was buried in a court filing from the EPA stating that they intend to announce the final program sometime this winter. So we're going to have uncertainty here, it looks like, for quite some time. And as such, the biomass diesel program production is kind of on hold right now and just kind of hibernating, waiting for some direction. So you take that and combine it with the lack of soybean sales to China, and really the soybean fundamentals are really on hold. You get a good biofuel program combined with a big trade deal with China, and you could have some very bullish fundamentals. On the other hand, particularly if you get a weather problem in South America, but right now that is looking good. On the other hand, if you get that good growing season in South America, you don't get any sales to China, and you get less than desirable domestic biofuel program, then you could have some very bearish fundamentals. So soybeans could go very well, and that's why we're seeing open interest for options in the soybean market right now exceeding that for the actual futures contracts. So that's it for today. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to continue to receive these updates from the trading floor. And I'll be back with you down the road with our next update as things occur.